how do you figure out what your purpose is? How do you figure out how I can make value? If you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So I mean, look at the Jewish culture. I mean, they've considered to be the wealthiest, or one of the wealthiest, and probably the most blessed, I suppose, kinds of people on the face of the earth. And in the Jewish community, one thing that you will do is that as soon as literally you've essentially had your bar mitzvah or you turn to a certain age, you actually essentially go into business. Now, when I say business, I mean you start your business, you go into work. And you're going to work to do what? The idea is that you start working with somebody, right? So if your father, if you're lucky, usually you work with your dad, right? You go into the family business, that could be your uncle, whatever, but you go into work because they look at going to work as a business. Even if I'm employed by somebody, they still look at that as I am just one little mini sort of micro corporation that fits into this big larger entity, this big company. So they look at this as I'm in business for myself, effectively. And so they learn from others, right? So, a young person starting off right now, the most important thing isn't the thing, I need to get that money. It's the thing, I need to learn from somebody. Now, if you don't know where to start, you literally just have to find mentorship, right? It's weird where people think, the more you focus on wanting money and trying to get the money, the less of it you actually have, you get, right? And I can tell you stories. But the more you focus on personal development and mentoring and seeking advice and being around people that, one, have money, but two, also understand the functions of money and different things like that, the more you yourself increase money in your personal wealth. That's certainly true in my personal life as well. And so, if I was speaking to a 16-year-old now, or if I was speaking to the old, my youngest version of me, it would be the same thing. Seek more mentors, have more people around you. So how do you do that? Try and hustle and get in as much experience as you can, right? So you're going to work for a company. Don't focus too much on the money. Focus on what you're going to learn out of it. So a 16-year-old that's allowed to work, who's able to work now, going, where can I earn more money? They all want to work for sports shops and those sort of, I suppose, attractive, good, seemingly good looking sort of places to work and that kind of thing. And that's not what you want, right? You want to be, if I was 16 right now and I couldn't find a job, I'd be at work at a car wash, because that car is going to be owned by someone. The owner's going to be there. It's likely the owner probably have multiple business. It's very likely. But the average business person has 2.3 businesses. That's all around the world, right? So these likely he's got other businesses. So, I'm doing a car wash. I would take a car wash any day than, working at perhaps somewhere like McDonald's or something like that. It's not about the money. It's just about the lessons what I'm learning. Now, I'm getting paid for it because I'm not doing it for free. Fair enough. But I'm there and I got access to the owners. And what am I going to learn from these guys? I'm going to learn about, business models, strategy. I'm going to learn about marketing. And one of the most important of all things, I'm going to learn about accounting. The how to position money, so revenue, cost of goods, gross profits, operational expenses, net profit, allocation of capital. I'm going to learn all of these stuff about taxes. And once you understand how these things work, it just becomes a second nature the way you think about money. It's like, cool. Then you can with the backing of people, and so you can maybe launch yourself and stuff like that. So the most important thing at that age, when you don't have that, many life burdens and stuff like that, it's just to gain as much experience as possible, right?
That's very interesting that you say that, because and we'll touch on this a bit later. But just the thought of how the rich approach work and how the poor approach work, where the poor would get into an employment, not really caring about the boss, not really caring about how it works, just what's the least I can do and just pay me so I can try and get up the next ladder. Where the rich would learn more than just the job, but just how it's run and all that stuff, knowing that one day this could be me. Whereas the poor don't really see that. They don't really see one day this could be me. They just think, what's the next job, or where can I go and buy the next Air Jordans with the money I've got. It's very short term.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is the fact that you said you'd work in a car wash. Just that thought of working in a smaller business where you're more likely to have contact with the owner or people in higher power than a massive chain where the manager's probably earning like 25k or something.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of my first jobs I ever had. I used to work at pasty shop. It's called the Cornish Pasty Shop years ago. And Cheryl, who used to own the business and she used to run the business, she would, you know, when we were very busy, when the shop got really busy and stuff like that, I'll do the tills check-in. So I'll do the end of day counting of the money and stuff. I'll pay the staff, and so all these little things I was doing, man. I mean, it was like very sort of junior level, but it was really exposing me to business management unbeknown to me, right? And so that was many years ago, before I had any interest in business or anything like that. But I did all of that stuff, you know, and my dad as well. Actually, my dad used to run a lot of businesses, and so, you know, I'll spend day with him, and he'd be running his stuff, and so I mean, I suppose you know, maybe not so much my dad, because I would say not everyone can say that, but definitely on the Cheryl side, I had, you know, opportunity to go work for. I can remember a friend of mine. We were in school. We finished school. We had our CVs together, and I remember we were handing out CV. And then this is the good old days where you used to walk into a shop and you used to hand out your CVs, or they used to put on the shop window vacancies, and you go in there. Now everything's online for obvious reasons and stuff. So, you know, we used to walk in there, and I remember getting a call back from a sports shop, and they would say, you know, they were literally talking to me about, not even like, you know, interview or anything. They were talking about what days can you do. It's almost like I've already had the job, right? And I remember thinking to myself, like, everyone wants to do this job. You know, it's a great place, like a major sporting wear company, and, you know, it's just a place to be. Young people wanted. I thought, man, but in my heart, I wanted more. So I remember going to work for this pasty shop for this business owner called Cheryl Richards, and I remember most of my friends laughed at me. They were thinking, "What are you doing working in the pasty shop?" But the experiences that I got, and I still don't know where I got that. I suppose that understanding or the boldness to be able to let, you know, essentially turn that job down in the sports shop to be able to work for a pasty shop. But my goodness, I learned so much from there. And so it's things like that really help. But also what you talked about is so important about the mindset about poverty, right? So, you know, business people or people that own their businesses, right, are constantly thinking of value creation. You know, they've got competition. They know that the resources are there, money, or there's a limited amount of customers. No matter how many, you know, there's always there's a limited amount of customers, and their competition is fierce. So the better their goods are, the better their services are, the more they're likely to win, i.e. increase their income. And so they're looking for, you know, greater value in terms of products and services, what they're offering, and they're also looking for good people. So business owners are constantly in search for value, right? And therefore, that's why they get paid so much, because they're constantly delivering good value out there, if you like. Where poor people, they're always thinking, as you said, you know, in your own words, they're trying to do as little as possible. You know what I'm saying? And to some extent, it's not evil, but what it is I'm using your termination about poor here, because what we're really saying isn't that they're not making money, because obviously they have a job, they're making money, but their income stagnates. It doesn't go up. In fact, they just kind of do the bare minimum just to stay there. Whereas the owner might make more money and stuff like that, right? As you said, and because to them it's like, this is not mine, this is not my business, this is not part of it, and stuff like that, right? It's not actually their fault per se, and it's almost like I'm rooting for the small guy here. No, it's because the reason why they are poor, because they don't have ownership, because they don't understand ownership, right? When you make somebody an owner in something, whether it's a partnership sort of deal, you know, people behave differently. But also, one of the most weirdest, I suppose, really a paradox, really, in terms of when it comes to first or final, is that the poor has a really sort of big entitlement mindset, right? They feel entitled.
Let's stay on that, because we're going to talk about ownership later on, so I want to save that part. But just on the mindsets of the rich and the poor, that last thing you said, I want to squeeze that out, because I know there'll be some people that would be offended by saying, oh, the poor don't care, as if we're just flippantly saying them versus us. One, you'd probably not call yourself rich compared to where you want to be. I'm definitely not. But both of us know what poverty is like in our own personal lives. What is the difference? Because there are some people who are in the category of poor, but they are trying. And so what is the categories of poverty, if you were to, those that are poor and almost like the entitlement, love the benefits and the welfare system, and not really looking to. And then there's some that are trying but just don't know how. Like, I don't know if you could talk on that.
They're trying and they're still poor, but what they still don't understand is that they still have an entitlement mindset, right? And so let me quickly explain. So, as we said, the poor person, really, right? The reason why they're poor, because some people that are poor anyway, I would say, and actually majority of poor people, if you like, have an entitlement mindset, and they always say things like the government needs to, Boris Johnson needs to fix this or that, or the government needs to, or the state benefit, and I need this, and it's always about what someone else can do something for them. And even when they're doing their personal financial plan, they've already factored in there the money that they're going to get in benefits and stuff. There is no desire to come off these things and be completely self-determined and stand on your own 2 feet and then you make your own money and live off that. That's not their flight. Everything is about what I can gain from elsewhere and stuff like that. So they will always remain that way, because as long as you have an entitlement mindset, you will never grow. Whereas somebody else thinks, I need to create value. There's so much money out there. I just need to find a way, put my value out there and do something. Now, you said someone is trying. So let's say that in the trying example, you've got a person that earning, I don't know, £20,000 and they say, right, I really want to be at 50. I really want to be at 100. And you put any number to that. They want to, but so what they then do is that they go and they get training, vocational training, technical skills or whatever. And when the reason why they're trying is because what they're doing is that they try in the sense of, let me get these qualifications and then someone will come and hire me. Right? No. That is still, this is why most people say that, it's not about education or anything like that, because that mindset in itself is entitlement mindset, but people don't understand it. It's completely stupid. Because you're saying, right, I'm not earning enough money, so I am not earning enough money. I'm not earning enough money, and I want to make more money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn these things, and then someone's going to come and knock on my door and increase their cost in their business. So they own a business. They're going to go, right, I'm going to increase my cost because you've got these skills that you've learned. Now, that's true, because you became a doctor. Obviously, they'll earn you more money and different things. I get all of that. But what I'm saying is that, right, it's still an entitlement mindset, because your whole thing is that if I learn, then someone will give me a job and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying it's still an entitlement mindset. True wealth is about me creating something. This is what people don't understand. It's never been easier to create and make more money in history than ever before. You can literally pick up your phone right now, record something and put it on a specific website, YouTube, whatever. And if you're good enough, i.e. value, and you get the views, you get paid. This is how stupid the system is, right? It's purely meritocratic, purely based on value. So if you know that and you understand the true nature of value and different things like that, I'm not saying don't study, but I'm just saying is that study to learn something, and maybe you're really passionate about this career, and that's fair enough. Obviously, you need to work and then maybe build, but look, don't let that be your mindset. Even if you go work for someone, have the mindset work for someone, but one day there'll be a prospect. There's a prospect for me to own something, or I'm going to get skills from this company, and one day I can be like, you know what? I've learned enough here. It's been wonderful. Let me set my own thing up. Always have the mindset of starting your own, because that's true wealth. That's when because look, to make money has a few things, right? And I tell you the four S's. The first one from you have to find a solution, right? That's the first thing. The first S is the solution. You find a solution to something. And then of that solution, you got your skill set. Like, do I have the skills for this? This solution that I found. Remember, I never said problem. I just said a solution. Because you know what? You don't need to find a problem and then find a solution. It's a fallacy. Because guess what? Walk on the high street of any major streets. There's plenty of solutions. There's plenty of restaurants. Nobody thought, there's already a restaurant, so they're solving that problem, so we need to find something else. Now they went, well, if they clearly there's a problem of food and shortages, they found a solution. We're going to open a restaurant next to them and serve another food, and then we're going to see how many customers we're going to get. So don't think about the problem. Think about what solution is there, do I like, or do I'm passionate about. So there's a solution, there's a skills, and then when you find those skills, you start. Now, when you start something, it means either you go in business, you get employment, whatever you do. But at some point in the fourth S, right, you're thinking scalability. How can I scale this? How can I scale it? How can I get this to a point where I become so good at this that I can hire people and give them a fraction of my revenue, i.e. cost, and then that become their income, and then I also can just sort of, work less if effective, and then let that money keep coming to me passively, right? And the last one is when it becomes the best way to generate income is what I call the sellability, or selling, or exit, if you like. And what I mean by selling is really, it's not you getting out of business. It's appointing somebody else that can become the managing director of the company. You own it, you're the founder, you own it, and you hire someone to manage the company for you. That's always going to be part of the plan. And then you can take more of a strategy role and sit completely away from the day-to-day role from it, and then take the money from that business and start one thing, another thing. So you that's what I'm saying. Pick any business that's accessible and stuff like that. The founder isn't doing the day-to-day job. That's selling. They started off doing that way, and then they scale up, and they get to the point where the selling stage is where now you've sold the role, the seats of the management, the day-to-day running. It's almost like you sold it to somebody else. Now you can focus on growing the company, or maybe starting something else, right? That's really the functions of the perfect way to build an income, right? But certainly not an entitlement mindset, right? Thinking, that actually happened to me. My personal story about money, I remember years ago wanting to make more money, and I didn't have any money. My friend of mine lent me some money, and I booked a hotel, stayed in a hotel for a week, and studied and did a project management course called Prince 2. And the idea was, I'd done Prince 2. Once I had Prince 2 on my CV, I'm going to get jobs left, right, and center. I never had one job, right? Never had one job. Another friend of mine as well, he did the exact same course, but he worked in the industry. And, he was already on the job already, and he did those things. And obviously he had promotions because of the qualifications, and actually because he was quite good at his job anyway. He had promotions and stuff like that, and he did quite well for himself and his family and stuff. But me, on the other hand, I did this course, and I think, right, plaster this thing on my CV now. Employers are going to be flooding in. My phone's going to be ringing every second. Nobody called me. I applied. No one even cared. And so again, that entitlement mindset, like for me, I had to learn the hard way, the long and hard way, to say, nah. And so for me, everything I do now is always about independence, man.
I'll add on or touch on two mindsets that you spoke about already as well, that I think would be worth drilling into before we move on to the next.
Sure.
The first one, and I spoke about this with a friend last week actually, is the fact that I feel like poor people, and myself included at one point, there's a mindset that says if you become a millionaire, there's one less spot of millionaires. It's almost like there's a finite amount, because I remember you just saying in a passing comment that there's enough money out there. And so some people have this mindset where if you make it in the food industry, let's say, I guess Freddie's done. He's hit the space, so I'm gonna have to think of something else instead of thinking that actually we can both be very successful. There's enough money out there where we can both be millionaires at the same thing, just different areas or whatever. But there's always a mindset that if someone makes it, it means that I can't. Like, it's either you or me, and there's always a fight. Where I know in some cultures they understand that, look, there's enough money to go around, so
Yeah,
I will help you, because in helping you, you help me, and we both
yeah.
end up at the top. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many things I can say on that. I mean, one of those things is that, well, first and foremost, there's a million ways to make £1 million. But almost every single person, as I said earlier, that you look up and say, that's a very wealthy person, you know, someone that, you know, has made it. There is this idea of, there's like a concentrated sources of wealth for most people. You know, if you was to study them, how did you make your money? There'll be one or two things, not one or two, there's very limited things that you will find in terms of how they made money, which doesn't suggest that, oh, there's no more space. It actually means that, you know, you can make money, like there's still spaces in that thing, because that person that made money, the other person, oh, you've done it, I can come in, and therefore there's capacity to take on more, because that asset classes or that type of method works for people. But this idea of, it's not really scarcity, it's just the idea of limited resources, right? It's really, really evil, and it's really crippling, right? Because the problem with that is just the way that we've been educated, right? Because in sports, there's always one winner. In any championship, there's only one winner. In life, or not life or anything, you know, if you know, any sort of league tables or anything like, there's always one spot for the winner. So that's how we perceive money as well. We think that there's only one spot for millionaire or billionaire, or whatever, but that's not the case. There are 1 million ways to make £1 million, and plus there's 1 billion ways to be a billionaire, right? That's proven over the years and stuff like that. So you can achieve it. You can really go for it. If somebody makes it, the best way to look at it is to go, if it worked for them, it can work for me. Mm-hmm. Also, think about the social causes of us having wealth, right? Imagine that every single person in the UK, for example, in America, wherever, right, was an absolute millionaire. They were financially independent. They were good. They can take care of themselves. Well, let's talk about the social cause. What would that it make? What the social impacts, right? Well, there would be less tax burdens. Well, how does that mean? Shouldn't we tax them more? Well, no, everyone's wealthy. There wouldn't be more demand for the government to tax it so high to be able to pay for all these things, because everyone is self-sustaining. They get, you know what I mean? The NHS probably will not be free, because there's no need to tax us to be able to pay for the NHS. Even if it's free, it doesn't matter anyway, but even it probably wouldn't be, because we can all pay for private healthcare ourselves and support the NHS, probably get rid of it altogether. Educate. So you see what I'm saying? We'll be all self-determined. It will be, every single person is wealthy. Every single person can look after themselves. There will be less involvement of government. Government will actually go back to its intended sort of the role that they're meant to play, right? Which is they are civil service. They're meant to serve the civilians. But it's almost like government now determine for the civilians how we should live our lives. But yeah, it'll be so much free. So the wealthier you are, the more freedom it brings in your life. Because it's not the money, it's about what you want to do with your life and different things like that. So my goodness, absolutely, man. You know, the more we can think that, there's more space for everyone to make money, the better. That's the first thing. But actually, if we were to have more money, be crime. I believe crime there will be no crime. There will be no fraud. There will be no scammers. There will be no, drug dealing and everything else like that. There'll be all of that stuff will be gone with. They'll be, gone. I mean, at least it won't be as, it won't be at the level we're seeing it now and stuff like that. So a lot of crime and stuff like that would be completely gone, removed or stopped. And life will be just so much peaceful. There won't be no envies. You won't have to lock your door and stuff. Why are you locking the Lamborghini door when the whole street's full of them and everybody has one? Like, what I'm trying to say? There wouldn't be that. There won't, and I suppose that's just one of the social impact or the social benefit of having, I suppose a wealthy community. But wealth is not limited at all, man.
And then the second one is linked to a book that you gave me, and the fact that the other mindset I see in a lot of poorer people is almost a twisted way of ownership. Yeah. I know you spoke about ownership earlier.
Yeah.
But it's almost a twisted version of, if I do something, it has to just be me and no one else. I've got to own 100%, because in their minds, the self-made millionaire is the guy who went up and did his own thing, controlled everything. But just the concept of it's better to earn 1% of £1 million than 100% of £100 or £1,000. Just that concept of it's okay to say, look, you can take a bit and let's do this together, because you have skill sets I don't. And even if we do make £1 million, some people have the wrong mindset of, I could have kicked you out and I could have owned it all. But the truth is, we wouldn't have been there for that to happen. I don't know if that's something you want to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, is I think the problem with that is people don't want to feel like they're employees. People don't want to feel like they work for somebody else. And, you know, anyone who knows me and spent any amount of time with me will know I talked about this all the time, which is partnerships. I believe in partnership as opposed to someone exactly working for you, right? So, you know, if I had a business and I brought partnerships in and stuff like that, I'm bringing that individual in, diluting my personal equity stake, in order to bring partnership in. But really, the way I'm looking at it is that, think about it this way, right? In the partnership, that individual coming in is almost like they have their own company. And what we're doing is that we're putting two companies together. Me as a person, I have a company, that's my skills. And that person is their own company. They have 100% of their company. And what we're doing, the company is acquiring, 20% of this company that we've started together and different things like that, right? It's really complicated way of trying to say this and stuff. Like when you have a system where it's a shared value-based system skill, it doesn't even... It proliferates. It doesn't just enhance. It doesn't just multiply. It makes you the job a lot quicker, right? So Adam Smith, who wrote the Wealth of Nations, talks about the specialization. How do we specialize? We make more money, and i.e. our productivity goes up. And when he talks about this in this book, what he's saying is that the more we can focus on one task, right, the better. So, for example, car makers did this. Car making companies did this thing where they had an experiment. They had two types of workers. One workers, they were trained to build a car from start to finish. So they'll build a car on the ground, and they would set them to how long it took for them to build a car, right? And it would take them a whole day, for example, to build one car. But then you had a team, almost like a production line, and every single person, say 10 people, did something completely different. One person just focused just on one thing, the other person, and they all did that. And their production was off the scales, absolutely off the scales. And that's what we're talking about. And so when you're sharing wealth, it's not so much about if you bring something, you got less of it, you're making more. You don't make, if you own a company 100%, you're making £100. Fair dues, you're making £100. But if you brought somebody in, but remember, it's not people you're bringing in because you like them. You're bringing in because they're bringing a specific skills that's going to help you to focus more on one thing, right? So usually what that means is it starts off you doing everything, and then eventually you have to bring people. As I said about earlier, name one company that's successful that the owner does everything. He's literally one person that does it all. Doesn't exist. And so you bring people in, you give them equity, you pay them money, and then obviously they become partners and stuff like that, and that's one of the best way to scale in wealth building.